It drifted silently over the rooftops of Daly City, barely missing the power lines. Thousands of people watched it from the ground. They saw the Navy blimp descending. They saw the engines running. They even saw the cabin door swinging open in the wind. But when the massive airship finally crashed into the street and the police rushed to pull the pilots from the wreckage, they found something impossible. The parachutes were still packed. The radio was working. The coffee was still warm. But inside the cabin, there was absolutely no one. This is the story of the ghost blimp and the two men who simply ceased to exist. To understand the silence of the aftermath, we must first look at the noise of the beginning. August 16, 1942. The United States had been at war for 8 months. The coast of California was not a safe place. Japanese submarines were lurking in the Pacific waters, hunting for American ships. That Sunday morning, Lieutenant Ernest Cody and Ensign Charles Adams climbed aboard the L-8 blimp at Treasure Island. Their mission was simple and routine: fly patrol over the ocean, look for enemy submarines, report back, and return home by sunset. Both men were experienced. Cody had delivered blimps to the Navy personally. Adams was a decorated officer who had survived the crash of the immense USS Macon years before. They were not rookies. They were not prone to panic. At 6:03 a.m., the L-8 lifted off into the morning mist. For the first hour, everything was perfect. They radioed their position. They spotted a potential oil slick on the water, hinting at a submarine below. They circled to investigate. At 7:42 a.m., Lieutenant Cody radioed control. "I'm investigating suspicious oil slick. Stand by." Those were the last words anyone would ever hear from the L-8. While Cody and Adams were silent, the L-8 was not gone. Not yet. At 11:15 a.m., beachgoers near San Francisco looked up and saw the blimp drifting aimlessly. It was sagging. The motors were sputtering. It touched the water briefly, dropped a depth charge, and then rose again, moving inland. It wasn't flying anymore. It was wandering. Thousands of people in Daly City stopped their cars and walked out of their homes. They watched as the giant gray shape cast a shadow over the suburbs. It scraped across rooftops, tearing shingles. It tangled in power lines, sending sparks showering down to the pavement. Finally, with a groan of twisting metal, the L-8 came to rest in the middle of Bellevue Avenue. The scene was chaotic. Sirens wailed. Firemen rushed to the gondola, axes in hand, ready to rescue the trapped pilots from the fire that might start at any moment. A crowd gathered instantly. Everyone expected to see 2 injured men, or perhaps 2 dead bodies being pulled from the wreckage. The fire chief, William Daly, was the first to reach the cabin door. He saw it was open. He braced himself for the gruesome sight inside. He looked in. He blinked. And he looked again. The seatbelts were unbuckled. The flight controls were untouched. He turned to the crowd and shouted the words that would turn this accident into a legend. "Nobody's here!" The police immediately cordoned off the street. The FBI arrived within the hour. The Navy launched a massive search operation along the coast. But the real mystery wasn't in the ocean. It was right there, inside that small gondola sitting on the asphalt. Investigators began to catalog everything found inside the L-8, and every item they found made the disappearance of Cody and Adams more baffling. First, the parachutes. Both pilots had their parachutes packed and stowed in their proper places. If they had bailed out due to an emergency, they would have taken them. Jumpers do not jump without chutes. Second, the life raft. It was still perfectly secured. Third, the radio. It was in perfect working order. The battery was charged. If the blimp had been attacked, or if there was a mechanical failure, why didn't they send an SOS? A simple Mayday takes 2 seconds, but they never sent it. And then, the strangest details of all. A briefcase containing top-secret codes was found behind the pilot's seat. No pilot would ever abandon classified documents unless facing imminent death. And on the dashboard, hats belonging to the officers sat resting, as if they had just stepped out for a lunch break. The theories started flying immediately. Did a rogue wave wash them out when it dipped low? Did a spy infiltrate the blimp? Did they get into a fight and fall out? Or was it something else? Decades have passed since that day in Daly City, but the silence remains deafening. What could possibly make 2 seasoned officers vanish into thin air while leaving their ship intact? Over the years, 3 main theories have emerged to explain the impossible. The first is the accidental fall. Some investigators believe that one of the pilots may have leaned out to inspect the oil slick below. If the latch on the door failed and he slipped, the other pilot would instinctively reach out to save him. In that split second of struggle, both men could have tumbled out into the cold Pacific. It is a logical explanation. However, it fails to explain why the door was latched open, a deliberate maneuver, and why not a single witness on the many ships nearby saw them fall. The second theory is darker: enemy capture. Remember, this was war. A Japanese submarine was potentially in the area. Could the L-8 have flown too low? Could the pilots have been ordered to board a sub at gunpoint, leaving the blimp to drift away? While cinematic, there is no record in Japanese naval archives of such an event. Boarding a blimp from a submarine without crashing it would be nearly impossible. And then, the third theory: the domestic mystery. Rumors swirled about Lieutenant Cody's personal life. Some speculated about a secret meeting arranged mid-air or a conflict between the men. But the forensic analysis was conclusive. No blood, no signs of a fight, no missing bullets. Whatever happened inside that gondola left absolutely no trace. The L-8 was repaired and put back into service. It flew for years after the incident, eventually becoming the Goodyear Blimp America, broadcasting sports games to cheering crowds who had no idea of its history. But the ghosts of Cody and Adams never truly left. They were declared legally dead a year later. No bodies ever washed ashore. No life jackets were ever found. No wreckage of a secret struggle was ever discovered. In the end, the case of the ghost blimp serves as a chilling reminder of how fragile our reality can be. We rely on logic. We rely on evidence. We expect that when a vehicle crashes, we will find the drivers. But sometimes the fog rolls in, the radio goes silent, and the world simply swallows us whole. The L-8 landed safely on a street in California, but its crew is still flying somewhere, drifting forever into the vanished point.